Professor Sumioka's 1 Minute Philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is materialism?
The world reason that German idealism refers to is in fact the externalized essence of human beings, namely, our physical civilization. This is the idea of Feuerbach and Marx.
What's it all about?
Materialism appeared just when the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Empire failed, while the Industrial Revolution, where machines made machines, were progressing, and capitalism, where money generated money, was born. Here, no one became able to control where the world history was heading. Learning Hegel, Feuerbach was not familiar with his idea of the world reason, which smells like old theology. He rather insisted on the reversal atheism, that God did not create us, but we created God, by projecting our ideal. Hegel's world reason is also our externalized essence, namely our civilization. Although we had created it, now it rules us, as a modern God. He called such self-bondage, alienation. Marx advocated historical materialism. According to him, at first we just made things. However, next, we thought out tools to make things. Furthermore, machines that make the tools are needed, and eventually, machines that make machines are made by machines. Civilization becomes a world of things, by things, for things. In other words, although civilization was originally only our means, now it becomes its own goal, and it will deprive us of our human nature.
What do you think?
Every public opinion varies and strays. So, it will guide us itself to where no one wants to go. That is the modern civilization.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka's 1 Minute Philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is communism?
It was a sort of idealistic politics. Denying private property and sharing production methods and labor results, it aimed to realize an equal society. Although it spread out at once to the world, after the Russian Revolution, it was actually a regime of terror by dictators.
What's it all about?
Since ancient times, many organizations share, manage, and operate specific assets of members. However, communism forcibly makes production methods and labor results collective for realizing an equal society. In 1848, Marx denounced capitalism, since it causes alienation. First, selling products makes man excluded from one's work results. Second, working for others makes a man lose the will for one's own work as a simple labor force. Third, losing will on one's own work makes man excluded from mankind, with which we build up our civilization together. Thus fourth, losing belonging to mankind makes us treat each other just as means. On the other hand, capitalists, who initially have production methods, increase their private property, as if money makes money. Marx interpreted it, because labor purchased from people makes surplus value over the labor price. Therefore, Marx thought that, if we share production methods and do not have to sell our labor, we will be able to realize an equal society. After 70 years, with the Russian Revolution of 1917, communist states occupied half of the world. However, ruled by dictators and the parties, they were much more despotic than capitalism. In addition, production, distribution, and the culture had stagnated, so since 1989, most of them were self-destruct.
What do you think?
Surely, alienation is the most important issue of modern philosophy. However, Marx's communism only had become a new god that deprived people of humanity again. We must find another way.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka's 1 Minute Philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is despair?
It is a state where reality and hope are disconnected. According to Kierkegaard, to cross from reality to hope, we every time have to select and create ourselves. However, if we are not autonomous, pulled by things outside, we fall apart, and cannot reach our hope. Nevertheless, even the person in question is often unaware of the trouble.
What's it all about?
From an objective point of view, thinking various things but to do nothing is a state of despair into finiteness. Contrarily, to do various things but not to know what the one wants to do is a state of despair into infiniteness. On the other hand, not to be able to help oneself, doing everything the one can, even a crime, is a state of despair into possibility. Contrarily, in spite of being able to something, to do nothing and to leave everything is a state of despair into necessity. However, the one who is in the state of despair often makes it worse oneself. In desperate ignorance, the one chases a wrong salvation, which never leads the one to its hope. Or, as desperate cowardness, in spite of knowing the one is in the state of despair, the one also gives up to seeking a salvation. Furthermore, the one who is in desperate stubbornness rejects all salvation oneself. Kierkegaard says, as long as it is its own hope, the one should make oneself the best effort to realize it. When the one cannot find the way oneself, the one should seek help from right ones, especially God. This is a human being, otherwise only a dead.
What do you think?
Novels and movies are, after all, stories of others. If you do not live your own love, travel and life, they make no sense.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is single individual?
According to Kierkegaard, a human being is not a just being thing, but an entity that should always become oneself, namely, an existence. However, what one should become is, differently from others, the absolutely unique single one.
What's it all about?
Fahidi thought, I is the activity, where I establish myself. However, Hegel insisted that, the world reason is the very agent, that is establishing itself, and that, human beings are just the instruments for experiments of its fancy idea. Furthermore, Marx, of the same age as Kierkegaard, said, although God is in fact just what we before made, it now rules us as civilization, material, or capital. Therefore, following fashion, we are eager to be the cool ones, the age requests, by the sensibility, as aesthetic attitude. At least, we put on a look of superficial morality, by the reason, as ethic attitude, to avoid the world's blaming. However, both attitudes rather make one farther oneself. Oneself is absolutely unique, and never exists in general fashion or morality. Turning its back on fashion and morality, but based on absolute good and evil, to reconsider oneself is religious attitude, because, at last, I as a single individual, directly face God, the absolute judge. For the first step, by denying its current figure, one should find oneself, that God requires. Kierkegaard called that, internal dialectic. However, as Kant said, even the practical reason has the limit, no matter how much experience one gains, one can never view its own whole life, like God, because, the difference between human beings and God, is not in quantity but quality. What one can do is, at most to choose, decide, and do towards God, concretely, uniquely and individually, on all occasions, at the risk of its life, and to believe that, someday one will be reunified under God, as a consistent one. Kierkegaard called this, qualitative dialectic.
What do you think?
However well one catches fashion, and however well one keeps morality, one is not oneself, but a clown of the age and the world, who has lost oneself.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what are human rights?
They are the rights that all people should be given, including the right to life, freedom, property, suffrage, and so on.
What's it all about?
Historically, human rights have been born as reciprocity with the community. Paying taxes, in particular, serving in the army at the risk of their lives, citizens and their families were protected by the community, and had the right to obtain their share of the community. However, those who were not members of the community were, in the first place, not even humans, so they were not subject to the protection of the community, but rather might be plundered, enslaved, and killed. In the era of absolute monarchy, a king asserted arbitrary legitimacy, and interfered with the details of citizens' lives. Therefore, human rights were needed as a positive law, to restrict the king. In modern times, human rights extended to natural law, prior to any community, so that every government became to have to protect all people and their rights. However, from the international point of view, the human rights protection in developed countries is more generous than that in developing countries. Therefore, a lot of people want to migrate from the latter to the former, although the domestic people blame them as the snatchers of their welfare. On the other hand, developing countries say that their delay in improvement is due to developed countries infringing, so that their resistance and attacks against them are justified. In addition, also in two developed countries, some people claim that the state should compensate for the inequality of illness and disaster, moreover even the loss by their own failure. However, it increases the burden on other people, and has become a problem as privileged reverse discrimination.
What do you think?
Your freedom should end in front of others. Human rights are, in fact, not rights, but rather duties, to protect others' rights.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what are the masses?
They are those who have no personality, so they are counted only by numbers. They are all similar, compatible, and consumable. Hiding in their anonymity, they irresponsibly do any bad things, without hesitation.
What's it all about?
At first, the Industrial Revolution and militarism needed a large number of workers and soldiers in unified standard. So, compulsory education, universal conscription, and mass media made people into the homogeneous masses. In addition, mass production of the same goods for the masses reduced the cost per unit, like T-type Ford. Thus, productivity improvement, employment increase, and purchasing expansion made a virtuous cycle, and modernization progressed at a stretch. Also, in the cultural field, the rising literacy rate and the growing sales promotion made popular songs, sports entertainments, pulp magazines, etc., spread explosively, so that these subcultures surpassed traditional high cultures. However, this enormous productivity quickly went beyond the domestic scale, and searching overseas markets, it developed into imperial wars of colonial struggles. Here, the national states fought endlessly, mobilizing the masses as workers and soldiers. In modern times, it may seem that developing various personal communication means, such as the internet, has made people regain their respective preferences. However, on the other hand, those who have no taste, no position, and no honor, are forced buried deep in the net, and have become the more troublesome and more aggressive masses.
What do you think?
Why are those who loudly insist on individuality and diversity, so all much of a muchness? Why do they have little courage to get out from the flock?
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is anarchism?
It is a bizarre principle, denying any principles. Especially in modern times, it means a movement that rejects any control of states, capitals, and communities. Moreover, it will actively destroy them.
What's it all about?
The cause of causes, the root cause is an arche. Philosophy has been asking the arche of the world for thousands of years. However, the French Revolution easily defeated the state and the church. Feuerbach insisted we should break the alienation, that people are ruled by God, whom they created themselves. Nietzsche also accused that God is just a ressentiment of the weak, who tried to cheat the strong with an illusion, and to rule them contrarily, but that already such a God is dead. These gave birth to modern anti-anarchism or anarchism, which thinks any principle should not be any more. Instead of absolutistic royal authority, liberalism believed in natural providence of the people and the market, while Marxism rather denied them, and advocated a scientific plan by the Communist Party's dictatorship. However, anarchism thinks that the absurdity of chaos is the truth of the world, and that there is no way else, so all authorities should be broken as an illusion. Therefore, anarchism is also called nihilism. And it leads to egoism, that there is no principle, so they think, I may do anything as I like. In culture, it becomes anti-art, Dadaism, that refuses any tradition and form.
What do you think?
The more we watch the world history, the more it seems as if it certainly had no consistent principles. I wonder if we just do follies repeatedly.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is will to power?
Everything will exploit other things. This is will to power, that Nietzsche found. However, to exploit other things, it must bear even the burden of others, so that the swelling and the self-defeat are also destined aft. Nevertheless, Nietzsche preached that will to power should accept even such accursed fate as its own one.
What's it all about?
Death of God has revealed that the world has no aim. But, according to Nietzsche, it is wrong in the first place to ask aim of things. The world is just as it is. Here, all human beings, animals, and even everything in the world has will to power to try to exploit other things. However, the will is in fact a prisoner of time that cannot change the past. Due to this one-sided nature, it will develop itself without rest, although at last, with its swelling weight, it must be swallowed up by the bigger wave and be ruined definitely. Most people cannot endure this meaninglessness of will, and will hide themselves behind the others as line-end people and try to live longer even just a little. On the other hand, knowing his destiny at fall, an exceeding person, a person who goes beyond the tightrope of this eternal return, has a more fati, namely love for fate, to affirm all past and future, so that he makes peace with time. By destroying, one creates history, and one unifies oneself with the entire history. Although people at the same time may scold the one as a devil, the very one saves the past and opens the future.
What do you think?
It's ironic that, for Nietzsche, who said God is dead, the ideal model of exceeding person was in fact Jesus Christ. In contrast, those who profusely praise Nietzsche are often the typical line-end people, aren't they?
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is hedonic calculus?
It is the core concept of Bentham's utilitarianism. He regarded happiness as pleasure, so that, to gain better happiness, he aimed to calculate correctly the total amount of pleasure.
What's it all about?
When the world was making a fuss about the revolutions of France and the US, British philosopher Bentham said that what conventional philosophy had asked, namely truth, justice, and faith, are meaningless, and that we rather should seek our happiness. According to him, happiness is not a temporal pleasure, but we should consider the integral total amount. Pleasure should be measured by the 7 dimensions: 1. Intensity, 2. Duration, 3. Certainty, 4. Propinquity, 5. Fecundity, 6. Purity, and 7. The extent to the others. Contrarily, 1. A weak pleasure, 2. A short one, 3. An unreliable one, 4. A far one, 5. A one-shot one, 6. A bitter one, and 7. A one which makes the others unhappy, are not so useful for happiness. Bentham further stated that, by applying hedonic calculus to politics, we should adopt the policy of the greatest happiness of the greatest number. However, individuals move only with their selfish interest of happiness. So, politics has to readjust its pleasures through rewards and punishments.
What do you think?
To win the election, modern politicians move only for their supporters, with a limited hedonic calculus. They have no reason to realize the greatest happiness of the greatest number for the world.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is pragmatism?
Ideas are too subjective to research. Therefore, Perth and his followers define the effect on behavior as meaning. This is called pragmatism.
What's it all about?
British Bentham at the beginning of the 19th century did not ask for truth, justice, and faith, but he thought that what helps our life is good, and that we should look for it. American Perth, a scientist in the late 19th century, also said that philosophy should empirically observe our real lives. He advocated the pragmatic maxim, to regard a general, commonsensible influence on our behavior as the meaning of an idea. Different from Descartes, he denied methodic skepticism and absolute truth, but he thought that science was just a temporary hypothesis for us. Introducing Perth's idea, his friend, James extended it, not only to philosophy and science, but also to morality and religion. He argued that truth is what affects our behavior. However, Perth was against his subjectivity extension. Studying Perth and James, educator Dewey advocated instrumentalism. He thought that knowledge is not on actual facts or truths, but just intellectual tools for human beings to adapt ourselves to the environment. Therefore, we should modify and improve our knowledge, little by little, namely piecemeal, so that we fit more into the environment.
What do you think?
We have too much vain knowledge that does not influence our lives, haven't we? It is more significant to think deep than to know much.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is the phenomenological reduction?
At the beginning of the 20th century, Husserl thought that philosophy should not concern itself with individual things, but with the way how those things happen, namely phenomena. The method to research them is phenomenological reduction.
What's it all about?
Our natural attitude assumes that the world exists independently of us. However, when we turn off such a switch that generally stands the world, and put it in brackets as epike, or hermeneutical suspension of judgment, pure consciousness before experience appears as the surplus. As the first stage of phenomenological reduction, we call this operation transcendental reduction. For example, if we stop celebrating Christmas, we find that there is no substance of Christmas on the world side. In other words, the day is Christmas only because we will celebrate it. However, what does celebrating Christmas mean? As a thought experiment to unravel it, we have to add various free changes to pure consciousness. We call this second stage of phenomenological reduction, eidetic reduction. For example, concerning Christmas, we try to imagine a variety of situations, if it is in summer, if it is Buddha's birthday, or if we spend the day alone. Then, it turns out that it becomes Christmas, neither because it is in winter, nor because it is Jesus' birthday, but because we have a fun time with family and friends.
What do you think?
Not only such an event, but also a family, a friend, a play, a study, or even a life, if you leave them behind, they will disappear. They exist only when you give them positive meanings, and pour your own energy into them.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is existentialism?
It is the idea that the fundamental one is not what it is, but existing itself. What is existing can become everything. The being way of humans is typical. The idea that appeared with Kant's practical philosophy and German idealism was influenced by Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and Husserl, and developed in the 20th century.
What's it all about?
Jaspers says that, even if we will know the world, we will bump against the limit, and will have to return to the question of humans. However, even when we would know a human being, we would only find a general shallowness. So, we end up with the problem of the one-time historical ourselves, and try to ask our meaning to the eternal infinite God, but it answers us nothing. However, he thought that the setback is rather the key to God's code, and that trying to break God's code is the very meaning of our existence. Heidegger also criticized that, because of the fear of being in a world that is not of us, we humans hide among the general public and amuse ourselves in idle talk, curiosity, and ambiguity. Nevertheless, our respective deaths are absolutely unique. Therefore, he said, being aware of it, we should create the world with an anticipatory decision of the meaning of our existence. Sartre thought that, we humans are cursed to be free, and that, we are the very nothing that cannot stay being ourselves. The awareness of nothing, might open the possibility of becoming everything, although we in general take care of people's gaze, and we will become what they want. However, he says, by pointing our own gaze at their gaze, and making them what we want, we can restore ourselves within them.
What do you think?
Unless we bump against the limit of God, death, the others, or whatever, we humans do not look back on our lazy beings. Drifting in lukewarm water, is not alive.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is structuralism?
It is an idea developed from Saussure's linguistics. According to it, what it is determined only by its position on the whole. The thing itself, has no reason for it.
What's it all about?
For example, hello is used as a greeting word, when one meets someone. How deeply we analyze the syllables, we can find no reason, why it is a greeting word. It is so, only by our linguistic system. Similarly, a boy is a prince, only because he is a king's son. It doesn't matter, whether he is enough smart to be a prince or not. Logical positivism, also says that, the whole of our knowledge, forms a huge network, and that, it is a good copy of the world. However, since most propositions would be logically derived, so, only that at the edges, have to correspond to the real experience. Nevertheless, our experience depends on our knowledge. Even if it is the same thing, people see it differently in their respective theory-ladenness. For example, the medical liquid of scientists, may seem delicious to children. More complicatedly, paradigm shift, sometimes changes the whole knowledge structure. Typically, Galileo, turned over the old geocentric theory, to the new heliocentric theory. As well, people who accepted the feudal system, suddenly begin to insist on democracy.
What do you think?
Every philosophy is, after all, just a framework on our side. So, it is useless to argue, which one is right.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is language game?
It is late Wittgenstein's view of human activity. Initially, he also advocated logical positivism, and said that, our knowledge was prescribed beforehand, by the entire framework. Nevertheless, afterward he insisted that, there is no such framework, and that, we communicate only with fragments of word and deed.
What's it all about?
He found that, we spin our daily life, out of fragments of word and deed, according only to the rules related to them, so that, there is no entire action and language. Such a thing is, just a fantasy that philosophy forged. The meaning of action and word, is, the function in communication, only on the occasion. Therefore, as long as it can draw out the partner's appropriate action or word, it does not have to be so strict. In some words, such as swear and judge, to say them, means, to do them. These are called, speech acts. Post-structuralism like Derrida, found that, even if it is the same action or word, the meaning of the second time, is different from the first time, of the historical integration of language game. They call the nature of language game, difference. Cultural inheritance is, in fact, not the copy of the formers, but always restructuring in another way. So, we should ask about the kind of the ways, such as homage and epigone, parody and camp, collage and mashup, moreover, simulacre, derived without the original.
What do you think?
Indeed, we are historical, and surrounded by a vast accumulation of meanings. But they are not solidified as a whole, and never dominate us. We can start a new game unlimitedly, only if we take good pieces from them, and rework them, as deconstruction.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is the frontier of philosophy?
Whenever you think about something, you are the frontier.
What's it all about?
People are noisy, and say, ancient ideas are better, or, modern ones are smarter. However, like cooking, whichever is old or new, the way you can handle things well, is the best. Generally, ancient ideas are solid and have a wide range of applications. On the other hand, modern ones are delicate and provide insight into subtleties. So, it is important to choose and use an appropriate one, depending on the situation. Anyway, those are far from philosophy, who only chase the thoughts of other philosophers. They are a sort of snob gossipies.
What do you think?
Think deep, then, know much. If you have selected tools for it, they are enough.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.
Professor Sumioka, 1 minute philosophy.
Hi, how do you do?
Professor Suyonka, what is the conclusion of philosophy?
We have no such thing. There are so many politicians and self-help educators, who irresponsibly insist on their own dogmas, while philosophers keep thinking and never get to any goal. Or, they rightly find that, we cannot answer the problem so easily.
What's it all about?
It is like walking a dog, just going around the outside of the house. However, it is not wasted. It refreshes us, and makes us know the neighborhood well. A sound reason is a watchdog of life. Like Montaigne and Kant, philosophers rewrite their books many times. They publish them, and referring to the responses, reconsider them, again and again. In other words, philosophies are the very questions to us, so we have to answer them ourselves. Those who are crowding together and content with their one-sided delusions, are cave ghosts having a nightmare. Even if spoken ill as cheeky or immodest, to live properly, we have to doubt our common sense, and understand the whole complex truth.
What do you think?
People are in a hurry to get to a conclusion. However, failure makes us worse. Let's do philosophy more carefully.
Professor Suyonka, I got it well, thanks.